Paul Sherry comes from a long line of artists with backgrounds in music and design. While studying in college, Paul realized he could marry these fields by creating his own custom guitars. Now, Paul Sherry Guitars is showcasing the complexity and craftsmanship of these instruments.
The thing that inspired me to get into guitar making was actually when I was 15 years old. My mom broke the headstock off of a brand new guitar I had just gotten. We went to Mark Erlewine's shop in Austin, Texas to get it repaired. And it was something that I kind of didn't even know existed. I saw his shop and he had guitars in there that he had built for Stevie Ray Vaughan and Billy Gibbons and other big name people. And I thought, this is what I want to get into. I asked him that day about doing an apprenticeship at 15 years old, and he kind of told me what it would take to get into the industry. Then later on when I was in college, I started working in a guitar shop and started doing some light repair, and it just kind of built from there. I did repair for about 10 years before I built my first full instrument. I figured at some point in time that I had built every part of a guitar individually. It was time to put them all together and build my first instrument, and after that happened, I was just hooked on building guitars. My father was an artist, my grandparents were musicians, so I've always been an artist. Started playing clarinet at the age of 6 and did that for several years till I transitioned to playing guitar, which my grandfather was really upset about as a jazz clarinetist. But I think he understood that I thought guitars were way cooler, and still in many ways do. I was working in an engineering firm and I'd been building guitars the whole time, and it became sort of this like double full-time job, and one had to take priority over the other. And while I love engineering and all of that, a lot of that goes into the guitars as well, and I decided to make the transition over to full-time guitar making. Engineering is important. The guitar has to be functional, play correctly to be utilized as an instrument. And there's a lot of artistry that goes into it as well, from the hardware design to body shapes to all these things. We pick and pull a lot from past designs, but I really try to reinterpret those into my own vision. And then there's a lot of science that goes into the acoustics of the instrument, from how the body is voiced, how, if there's chambers cut into them, how the chambers affect the sound, the density of the wood, and how that affects the way it sounds, to scale length and the pickups, what type of wire you use, how many winds. It's something that it's a lot of individual parts that affect the way the overall sound of the instrument is, but they're all important. The process usually starts with a client consultation, and we try to figure out what they're looking to get out of the guitar. I think first we'll talk tonally. What sort of sound do they want? Something that is dynamic but chill, or mid-rangey, or really aggressive. And then we can go into the aesthetic and then the functionality of the instrument. What sort of radius do you want on the fretboard? What scale length are you comfortable with? What type of bridge do you like to play? But I usually have a specific vision, but I do often find that as the process gets through, that it evolves. And I might have an idea, oh, you know what would look really good on this? And sometimes it involves starting over on a piece or moving backward a little bit to incorporate this idea that I had.
Still fits.
You never know what can change. It may be an unpopular view, but I really like tailpieces. They've gone out of vogue, but I make my own tailpieces and I like them a lot. You know, I don't always build them with them, but it's something I like to do. I have some pretty unique body shapes, even though they're based on classic designs, and some of them you might go, oh, that's a this, but they're all modified into what I kind of think they should be. I think they're unique because that vision starts over on each project. You know, I go back to the drawing board every single time and will design the aesthetic of the guitar to meet whatever particular vision I've come up with or a client has come up with. And they really do end up being quite unique. Even though some of the body shapes are standard in my line, there's a lot you can do with color and hardware and pickguard designs and the pickups and all the various things that make up a guitar can really change the aesthetic and the sound and functionality of it as well. I see guitars as the perfect marriage of art, design, and engineering. They have to meet all of that criteria to be good. You know, people buy with their eyes and are inspired by the sound and can only play them at their fullest potential if they are correct in their design and engineering. And I like the combination of all of those sort of things. I like functional art. I like that it has a purpose. And it's inspiring to see other people take what I've built and make great music with it. And that is part of it as well. I want to see that. I want my clients to send me videos of them playing my guitars. And that's where the real satisfaction comes from. It's when I see other people utilize it to create. I mean, you can't get much more out of it than that. It's not a painting hanging on a wall somewhere. It's functional art, and I've kind of been obsessed with that since I was a kid.